I was in the, in the shower this morning where often the theme of the day hits, and because I'm leaving for a few months, 4 months or more, I kept trying to find something that would sum things up if I'm going to say something to you, if something happens and I don't see you for a while or ever again. What is it that you want to tell people? And in a way I've been saying stuff all along for years, and the message doesn't change a lot, but it keeps kind of boiling down into a kind of sauce. And what hit me this morning was, it's your life. Basically, that's it. It's your life. You know, you were handed this life, and it's yours to do with as you like. Which in a way sounds simple, because if you could craft it any way you wanted to, you probably would imagine it different than what it is. On the other hand, you might not. Most of us imagine a life, or try to conceptualize a life, without obstruction. The perfect life would be where there was nothing in our way. Everything we wanted, everything we hoped for, everything we aimed at, we hit, we got, it arrived. And when that doesn't happen, we're pretty frustrated or pretty angry, or feel that life wasn't fair, that somehow it should have been otherwise, and we certainly don't feel that it's our life. We feel that it's the life of whatever it is that's obstructing us. If we could have the life that we wanted, nothing would obstruct us. But I've said this sometime before, and it's a pretty interesting idea or fact if it's true scientifically. I read once that the first thing that formed after the Big Bang, the creation of the universe, was a obstruction, if you will, or resistance to that expansion. And I've talked about that here, and I think it's really important. The first thing that forms after the explosion outward is something to restrict its explosion, to obstruct it, and to create what is probably the defining tension of everybody's life. Everyone here has this enormous desire to get everything you want, and something saying no. Not always, but enough of the time that you feel, in a way, frustrated. Part of the problem that we're really dealing with here is this concept of it's your life automatically filters into this concept that it is our ego-minded, personal selfhood life. I mean, that's the initial misreading of that idea. It's your life means that it's your life as opposed to everybody else's life. It is your individual, personal ride. And that everyone else be damned, this is for you. Which is how many people read it. It's your life can also be read, if you will, as the life of the oneness that we are. In a way, it's our life, but it really isn't that. Because it isn't so much about the collective, it is about the essential you. The essential you that has been born. That you is not as cut off from or as obstructed in the world as you think. It is here to learn, enjoy, connect with, experience, know life. To know life. That's why you're here. And you're here to know it, not for your own particular private gain, but for the very self that gave you the life in the first place. It wants to know your story. It wants to know your story. It wants you to live your story and to get from it everything you want. And I have said this again many times. You have gotten and will get everything you want. Now I know a lot of people listening to that go, what? I don't have what I want. You know, I want, and it keeps going on and on and on into some infinite far out space. But the way I describe it, and I know I've done this to you before, every micro choice of your life is a choice, even as you know the decision not to make a choice. Every choice is your choice. So whose life did you get if not yours? You chose it. You chose it. Every little incremental step was your choice. So you didn't get somebody else's life, you got your life. Love it or not, it's the life you chose. So you may say, well, why did I break my leg? Why did I get sick? Why did the car crash into me? Why did all of these horrible events happen? Why did I come from a difficult family? Who knows? Who knows? But given the design of life, you were given everything you need to grow. Rudy said that if you were to take all of your life and grind it up into a powder, it would become the fertilizer of enormous growth. And it would be exactly the fertilizer you need. Not somebody else needs, you need. If you took all of your tensions and all of your fears and all of your inhibitions and all of your anger and all of that stuff and you ground it down and you took it as a vitamin, you'd be very strong. The fact is, life has opposition because if it didn't have that, if it didn't have tension, if it didn't have conflict, it would be not worth your time. Imagine any movie, and I've been watching, the Academy screeners, and one movie after another, pretty fascinating to see so many stories coming at you. And what you see when you watch all these movies and you go to all these plays is there is something that happens around page 19, as they put it, which destabilizes everything that was there before. Completely destabilizes it. And then the whole rest of the show is trying to work your way back into what's called equilibrium, back into the balance and harmony that you had before. That's the journey of a story. It's the journey of your life. Without that destabilization, without that thing messing things up, resisting and obstructing you, you wouldn't have a journey of any value. One of the saddest stories you ever hear is of wealthy people, kids born to wealth, who don't have to work, who don't have to do anything, whose parents give them all that ever wanted, and what happens in those lives? They are destitute internally. They have no structure. They have no muscle system. They have no capacity to love life. Nothing was built because everything was given. Those are the worst lives of all. The lives of true struggle are the lives that we are all basically given. Even when you're given everything, trust me, those guys struggle in ways we don't even understand. But it is a struggle. And learning to embrace that struggle with a certain amount of grace is what defines character. The person who walks around in a toxic mode, always angry at what life threw at them, is not someone you want to spend time with. People who take the struggle and find some strength and humor some capacity to grow and evolve and endure, those are the people we celebrate. And it's really who we want to become in our lives. So when you say it's your life, it's really not that it's your life without the obstruction, or that you can somehow have a life that will design anything it wants. It's a life that will respond gracefully, graciously to everything that comes. That's the life you want, truly. It's who you want to become. In spite of whatever is thrown in your path, you want to find this way to absorb it, accept it, rise above it, honor it, live with it. Most of us are telling ourselves a story about our life that is not our life. A story about your life that is not your life. Most of your stories are based on what's called delusional thinking or magical thinking. Very few people see their lives as they are. Most of us can't afford to see our lives as they are because in so many ways they're not working properly. So many of us operate under the misunderstanding that we're fine and everyone else isn't, or we're terrible and everyone else is wonderful. There are these delusional ideas that we carry around with us about our own story. And really, the only way to discover your true story is to shut up the part of you that's always telling you the wrong story. And how do you do that? I'm always coming back to this point. Sit still. Mindfulness. Meditation. Energy work. Open to stillness, and you discover the pathway to yourself. The pathway to that which instigates storytelling, and that which precedes storytelling. And the extraordinary thing about going back to yourself, to thyself, thy will which wants to be done, is that you find this inner awareness, this inner voice, this inner shaping force that can at any instant reshape, redesign, and reanimate your life. It's the very force that's giving you life in the first place. It's the force that's designing life. It is, when I say it's your life, that's the life that you responds to or refers to. It's your life. And when you get back in touch with that force, and you stop telling yourself the stories that your parents planted in your heads, and your best friends planted in your heads, and your schoolmates, and all those people around your life who gave you the makings of the false story, you start to rediscover your story, and you discover that your story is the story of an enormously heroic adventure. And that you are the adventurer, you are the explorer. And that as lost as you may have been, finding that storytelling principle, that you that is animating everything about you, rediscovering that gives you the opportunity of turning your adventure into something of enormous courage and extraordinary resolution. Because the best end of any story is to return back to this equilibrium, having survived this enormous journey, not only intact, but having learned great lessons. And that's what we're all trying to do. And it's the one thing that will give you closure, the one thing that makes a story good, the one thing when you read a novel that makes you so happy at the end because you know you were in the hands of a great storyteller and that the end of the journey was worth it. The worst thing is to come to the end of a book or a movie and it's terrible. 2 hours devoted to something that's really a piece of shit. What does it feel like to live a whole life that ends that way? Horrible. Horrible. You don't want it. And how do you avoid it? Find that thing in yourself that is animating this whole journey. It's right there. It doesn't go anywhere. It's never disappeared, really. Every one of you comes to this class because something in you instinctively wants to touch that again. They want to know it. That's why you're sitting here. That's why you make this weekly pilgrimage. Because you want to find it, and because no one else in life is reminding you to do this. Nobody. If you didn't come here once a week, tell me, where would you hear the message? I mean, some of you would hear it in church, and some of you would hear it in, self-help bookstores, and some of you would maybe get it online. I don't care where one gets it, really. You don't have to come here. But what you need to do is be reminded, unless it's in there as a constant. And at some point, it becomes the constant. It becomes what your life is about, the heroic journey to have your own life. Your own life. And somewhere on this journey, if you're lucky, you will stop to look at all of this and you will go, what is this? What is this story? What is the thing that's telling stories? What is any of this? What is it? And two things will come back. One is, it's a mystery, probably an unsolvable mystery. And two, it's reality. This is really what it is. And what you find when you look at your life, love it or not, is what's real. This is it, guys. You find yourself in the best place or the worst place. It's real. Now what? Now what? There remains in the storytelling something called transcendence, enlightenment, awakening, which I've talked about in this class quite a bit for the last year or so. The problem with any of those words is the idea that somehow it makes you better than, freer of, or in some way separate from this. And I am telling you only from my own experience, and my own experience is an evolving one, so this may not be a final fact. But my experience says it doesn't free you from this, it frees you into this. You become this. It's absolute oneness with what is. This is the journey that we're on. And so when I say it's your life, I mean that on so many different levels. But basically what it comes down to is you're here. You're here. It's not by chance. It's not a mistake. It's not a punishment. It's not a reward. It is something mysteriously amazing and real. And you're in it. Now what? So, it's your life. You give me the answer. Figure it out. I can give you 1,000 answers, and they'll go in one ear and maybe out the other. They may even rattle around in your head for a while, but they'll be my answer. They'll be my answer to you. My answer to you will never satisfy, ever. I don't care who the greatest teacher in the world is. Their answer will never satisfy you. The only answer that will satisfy you is the one you were born to find, and the one that's inside you as we speak. Not to find it, to lie on your deathbed and go, what is this? And not to have some sense, even if you don't have the answer, but not to have some sense of the wonder of even posing the question, is a life you don't want to live. If nothing else, die in the presence of the mystery. Awake to the mystery. Awake to the amazement of having been here or of just being here. And even when you're leaving it, it doesn't get less amazing. If anything, what makes it more amazing is that we're always leaving here. We're always leaving here. Every second is a departure, as much as it is an arrival. And if you can grasp the idea that you're leaving, this will become precious in a way that will redefine how you live your life. It's your life. Any questions? See you guys in whoever, who knows.